Cool. I actually have to record this again because it turns out that I was on mute in the previous one. So there's this idea that I've been thinking about a lot over the past 2 or 3 days, and I think it relates more towards young people in South Africa right now who are in the job market and they're really struggling to find employment of any sort. And so, what tends to happen when you're unemployed is you start sending out these applications, and you generally assume this is going to happen in like a few weeks or a month at most. And then a month goes by, and then 2 months go by, 3 months go by, and still nothing, you know. And then what happens generally is that desperation starts to creep in. Like you start actually getting so desperate. Um, what we generally untold, and I only realized this years later when, so I spent a lot of time reading books around human behavior, psychology, and whatever else. And desperation is actually not an appealing attribute in an individual. Like if you've ever received like a sales call from these telesales and whatever else, and whether it's for insurance or anything of that sort or a phone contract, some of these conversations, like the person is so desperate to make a sale, like you can hear it in their voice that I desperately need to get one sale today. Like I, I can't just keep doing this. Like I really need to get a sale. What tends to happen is once you can hear the desperation in their voice, or once you can hear um, how desperate they are, and I've had conversations with people about this. Like it's actually, I don't want to use the word, but I don't have another word. It's an off-putting emotion. Like when you hear someone that's actually desperate for something, it it puts you off them. Like it's a thing of even if I wanted a contract, it's unlikely that I would have bought it specifically from you. Unless if you're a person that's really high in like compassion and whatever, genuinely like, oh shame, man, let me just buy something, like anything from this person. But more often than not, it's actually an off-putting emotion, because um, basically what desperation tells, like that emotion or that feeling of desperation coming from a person is, well, no one essentially wants you, so why should I want you? Why should I be left with what everyone else doesn't want? So what we generally don't tell young people is that feeling of desperation, if you take that into an interview, you're only going to make this worse. Like that's why you find someone that says, I've been to 20 interviews and there's been no offers. Like I'm really desperate for something. You're like, you may have gone poorly, maybe like let's say in the first 2 or 3 interviews, and then you got desperate, and then you went into the interview with your desperation, and that's an off-putting emotion. That's that's essentially what they would generally call a low competence emotion or a low competence trigger. The fact that you are desperate says basically nobody wants you in the marketplace, so why should we want you? And you don't want to be that person. You don't want to find yourself in a situation like that. So a lot of what I essentially recommend is, even with my friends, I tell them the same thing. And I tell myself the same thing as well. I have to remind myself often is you will get a job. It doesn't have to be this one. That's the mindset that I generally take into an interview, any interview, whether it's with an initial conversation with a recruiter or whatever. Like, even if this is like a proper next jump up in my career, I'll say, well, I am going to get the next jump in my career. It doesn't have to be with this specific organization. And once I remove that initial feeling of anxiety or desperation, what it does for me specifically is then I can focus on the other person, because you're desperate for the job. You're thinking about your bills, you're thinking about your hopes and dreams, getting your career up and running, blah, blah, blah. None of those emotions get you hired. What gets you hired is your ability to alleviate the feelings of risk and uncertainty about you from the other side of the table. That's what gets you hired. So the mindset that you obviously need to be taking into into an interview is, okay, I need to understand what exactly is the problem here. Why do they need a person like this? And how can I help them find that person? That's generally what I do when, whether it's speaking to a recruiter, and especially at this point in my career where I'm turning down most opportunities, like probably 7 or 8 out of 10 conversations that I have with a recruiter. essentially ends with me saying, I don't think I'm the right person for this, but I do know someone, or I'll keep an eye out. I'm not sure I know anyone who actually fits this specific set of requirements. Once I actually take the idea or the mindset of I'm trying to help them find the best person, and what that person actually looks like. Sometimes, especially for my in my case in the data space, half the time you're speaking to someone who really isn't sure what this company is looking for. So they'll give you, and I've experienced this on multiple occasions over the past few weeks. They'll even like tell you, okay, the client told me this, they gave me this job spec. Like, what exactly are they looking for? Like, what does this person actually do, and how will I know I found the person? And I'm able to actually say to them, okay, this is essentially what they're looking for. This is the type of person that perhaps would be able to do this. Maybe scrap this qualification, add this one because this is part of this specific course of studying and whatever else. But because of the fact that I go into the conversation trying to actually help them, like I'm trying to help you find the best person, even if that person is not me. And I do that all the time. A situation like that happened about 8 or so months ago, where I was having a conversation with um, a recruiter. She told me like, okay, this insurer is looking for this, and in truth, it was probably the type of thing that I was looking for, but it was just wrong timing, like completely horrible timing for me. And so I told them, like, listen, this is really a great opportunity, and under normal circumstances, I would have taken it, but it's not the right time for me. But I do know someone who I think would be able to do this. I was like, okay. We had the conversation and whatever. She came back to me actually 2 weeks later, and this is like, please change your mind. Like, would you be willing to change your mind about this and whatever? I'm like, no, not right now. So yeah, but this person, I'm relatively certain. I think she had the conversation with the guy. She wasn't really sure. I'm like, no, even if he's not that articulate, he's really good at what they do and whatever. So he went through the whole process with this company, and he ended up getting the job. The same lady came back to me yesterday and said, "Oh yeah, I hope you're good and whatever else and stuff like that. Like I really appreciated you helping me with that other thing. I've got another role that I think you would be good for and whatever." I'm like, "Dude, your timing is horrible." But I looked at it and it really wasn't for me and whatever. And I was able to say that to her. And I'm like, "Okay, this really isn't for me, and I'm not sure I know anyone um, who fits this bill." But I'll give it some thought and I'll see if I do know someone. That's really how I do things. Like I really am, when I enter into these conversations, I really am trying to help you find the right person, even if that person is not me, you know. And what allows me to do that is the fact that I'm not desperate, is the fact that I've come to the conclusion that I will find something. It doesn't need to be this. So when I have this conversation with you, I'm not actually trying to convince you of anything, you know. If anything, I need you to convince me that this is the next step for my career. But outside of that, I really am trying to help you. I really am trying to make sense of what it is that you actually need, um, what perhaps you haven't taken into account. And once I've got a proper understanding of that, then I can showcase why I have the necessary skills to show you to actually fulfill that, or that I know someone who might be able to do that. That's generally my thinking with these conversations. And it's not always like these situations where I'm consistently a person that's like the perfect fit and I'm picking and choosing. No, I had a situation probably 2 or 3 weeks ago where like it's a huge company, one of these we basically call them FANG. So it's like was it Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. So it's one of those companies. They were looking for a specific role, and honestly, I was interested in just joining the company, and I was like, okay, I'll figure out my way once I'm inside. Oh my goodness! Then I got to, so I did the technical assessment. Okay, it was horrible, but I think I managed to get through that. And then it came to the technical interview. Oh my word, you know. And so as the conversation was going, it was supposed to be like an hour or so. It ended up being about an hour and a half, and we had this conversation. And I think somewhere in the middle, I said to the guy, "Look, listen, I don't think I'm at a place in my career where I'm probably the right fit for this. Um, let's work around that. Let's actually work. What is it that you guys actually need? So here's where I am. I'm a data scientist right now. This is what I can do, and blah 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 blah. This is what you're looking for. Like, and I'm not sure how your recruitment team approach someone like me for something like this, because this is like, apples and oranges. They are not even in the same orbit. So this is not going to work, but I am really interested in joining your organization. And so we started talking about that. We started talking about, okay, these are the certifications that I would recommend that you actually do if you are trying to get into this organization with this and whatever else. And it's like, okay, look at this online course, do this and do this and do this. We got into that conversation because, like, yeah, it was going horribly, you know. And we started having that conversation, and I was like, okay, that makes sense, because of the fact that I'm actually trying to help him. He was actually willing to also help me and say, okay, you have these skills and these are actually really good skills and whatever, but I don't think you would be happy in this role. I think you would be more happier in a role like this. We just don't have this type of opening right now in South Africa. But keep an eye open because it sounds like that might be coming up in the next few months or something like that. And that's generally what happens when, and this is not an uncommon occurrence, whether it's with a recruiter, with a hiring manager, and whatever, because of the fact that I go into the conversation trying to help them. For whatever reason, they feel the need to also help me. They also want to, okay, this really sounds like a good person. This is the type of person we really would want in our organization. Um, how can I help you do that? If it's with a recruiter, they'll generally say, like, you're such a good person. I really want to get you into a role with one of my clients. Would you be open to that? Or this or that? Like, I'll ask around. Like, and that's what's been interesting to see is that the more people you try to help, the more people actually want to help you. Like, the more times you say, listen, I'm not the right person for this, but I do think I know someone who might be, or I'm not at that place in my career right now, or this is just the wrong time and whatever else. And you're able to have those open, because that's what I do. I choose to have honest conversations with, with hiring managers or recruiters and whatever. So I really have an honest conversation with them because I'm genuinely trying to help you. And even if I'm not the person that's going to end up with this job, I can actually live with that. And once you take that mindset into that, and once you become less desperate, it allows you to focus on the other person. It allows you to see the other person. It allows you to hear what this person is actually looking for. And in the midst of that conversation, you can actually hear whether you are the right person for this or not. And if you're not, you're able to say, listen, I don't think I'm what you're looking for, but this is what I think you are looking for. And I do know someone who would be able to do that. Or I do think this would be the right move for you. Those are things that you really want to get a handle of. And it's difficult because often you feel like, okay, you've gone months not getting an interview. Now this is the first interview. How do I just let it go? How do I just say, okay, I'm not the right person? I can't do that. But your desperation seeps through. Your desperation really puts you at a disadvantage to get the job anyway. But once you say, listen, I will eventually get a job, it doesn't need to be this one. Let me try and help them. Let me try and see what it is that they are needing and whether I'm the person that could fulfill that. And if I'm not, do I know someone who could? Or the alternative is, let me work on something else, or I'll keep looking for other things. And that's literally what I do. Like, it's not always about me. Like, it's not just me trying to find the next opportunity or the next this or that. It's me trying to help other people. And I'm willing to actually do that. I'm willing to say, listen, let me try and help you. Let me see if I know someone who can fulfill this. Let me have a conversation with one or two people, see if they would be interested in this role, if I'm not the right fit and whatever else. And that's generally what I do. And what has happened as a result of that is that now I'm at a place where almost weekly, recruiters, hiring managers, and whatever else are coming to me saying, listen, I've got a friend who has this opening, or this and that is happening. Would you be interested? Or do you know someone who might be interested in this? That's what happens, is that now you become the go to person when opportunities do open up, and then you've got your pick. Then you can decide, okay, this is for me. No, this is not really for me right now, but I do know someone, or I'll give it some thought. Now you become that person because you've almost built a reputation for being the type of person that's actually trying to help the other individual. And once you do that, once you become that individual, opportunities start opening up. Like that's what's been weird about a lot of what I do, even with the videos that I do on LinkedIn. I'm a data scientist. I don't talk about data at all. Like perhaps it could potentially be like maybe one post every 3 or so months that I'll actually talk about data. Most of the time, I'm generally just talking about my thoughts on maybe let's say the job market or people's careers and whatever. I like sitting down with people, finding out how their careers are going and whatever else, and seeing what I can learn from them. But what has been interesting is, despite the fact that on LinkedIn I don't talk about data or data science, companies still approach me. Like you still find people coming to me and saying, "Listen, I want you to join my team. I've got this role opening up. Is this something that would interest you?" and whatever else. And that's literally what happens. Like when you put yourself out there trying to genuinely help people, it seeps through. The same way that desperation, you can sense it, you can feel desperation in a person. When a person is genuinely trying to share some information, when a person is genuinely trying to help other people, that also seeps through. And when that happens, they want to give you opportunities. That's what's weird. They want to give you opportunities. They want to see you going high and whatever else. I mean, one person who is basically a paid campaign specialist came to me this week and is like, "Listen, I really want to help you with these videos that you're doing and the content that you're producing. I think you could reach a wider audience. Let me help you." And I'm like, right now I'm not really paying anything on these things, but I think I am thinking about investing a bit of money towards perhaps increasing the quality of the videos that I do and trying to pay, maybe help more people and whatever else. When I reach that point in the next few months, I am working on a few things. When I reach that point in the next few months, I'll give you a call and whatever else. And this guy was like, "No, you don't understand. I was offering my services for free." Like I really think what you're doing is important. I really think what you're doing is valuable to other people. And I want to be a part of that. I want to help you reach more people. And I'm willing to use my knowledge and skills to help you do that. That's generally what happens when you are not desperate and you are genuine in your attempts to help other people, is that more and more people want to help you. More and more people are willing to find opportunities for you, and they're willing to be involved in whatever it is that you're doing. And that's where you want to find yourself. But to get to that point, um, you have to get over this feeling of desperation, because what desperation does is that it causes you to focus on yourself. It makes you more focused on what you need and not what the other person needs, not what the interviewer needs, not what the hiring manager needs, not on what the people who watch your videos or whatever it is that you're doing need. It makes you focused on yourself. And when people can feel that, they can feel you, they can feel like you're trying to use them. You're just trying to get this job. You're just trying to increase the number of views on your videos or blah blah blah. They can sense that. They can sense that you're not genuine in whatever it is that you're doing. And once they sense that, they generally don't want to give you opportunities. They don't want to hire you, and that works against you. That's why I was saying that if you're in the job market and you feel yourself getting more desperate, that's the worst emotion you can bring into an interview. It doesn't show hunger, it shows desperation, it shows despondency, and those are not high competence triggers. So it's not just about the words that you use in an interview, it's the energy you bring. And if you're going to bring that energy of desperation and really needing this, it seeps out, and that only makes matters worse. It makes you less likely to get hired. But if you come in there with this honestly an emotion of trying to really help them, like, "I'm trying to help you, I'm trying to see whether I might be the right fit for you and we might be the right fit for each other, or if I'm not the right fit, do I know someone that might be?" Once you bring that type of energy into these conversations, more and more people want to help you, and more people want to have conversations with you about potential opportunities. And yeah, this ended up being a lot longer than I thought it would be. But those are my thoughts on the downsides of coming into a conversation and or even an interview and you're actually desperate. It doesn't work out. It really doesn't work out, because it they can feel that, and that's not a very high competence trigger. And once they have that feeling, it's very difficult to even overcome that. Despite all the words that you may use, they can sense the desperation, and that means and that makes them not want to actually hire you. So it's actually the worst thing you could potentially do.